Females? I thought they were extinct.
So you could say I'm something of a shockwave fan. From bigger ones, to more medium-sized type ones, to even some small ones. Even the Funko Pop. But today we're taking a look at the new shockwave figure I got. So, let's take a look at the box. So, taking a look at the box here, it looks pretty cool. It's it's your standard Studio Series Voyager box nowadays without the window on the packaging, which sucks. But this is one of the best renders that we have for Shockwave, which I will be using in the stream I want to do this weekend to paint up this figure. Because my painting video that I did for Starscream didn't do too well, so I guess I'll probably just stick to maybe just doing some live streams and painting. But here's the side of the box right there with a nice picture of Shockwave. Here's the back of the box with a pretty cool little picture of Shockwave right there. Not looking too bad. And there's another shot of that Shockwave, the Bumblebee movie logo, nothing on the bottom. So that is pretty much it for the box. Now, in the box, you get this. In every Studio Series box, you get a background. I don't really see too many people using these, but it's still nice that they give you these Studio Series backgrounds. And I think they're very underappreciated. And he does look pretty cool on the background. So, I have a confession. So, if you had seen both my videos of the Optimus Prime and Scourge that I did, I did not show their boxes in those, which is my mistake. For one, Optimus Prime, I got rid of his box, and Scourge, I currently can't find his. So, there's something I want to address, and that is Hasbro's warehouse problems. So, when I got my figure, this is the picture I took, and video I took, it's dusty. Like, why is my figure dusty? And that's because of the windowless packaging in the warehouse. It was like it was stored for years. But anyway, nitpicking aside, let's go to details. So the details on this figure are really insane. I'm really liking that head sculpt. That head sculpt looks perfect. Like, it just looks so cool with that menacing, just singular eye. I love Shockwave so much. He's such a cool, character to me. And I really do love purple as a color. He's always been, my top 3 favorites. And you can see the light pipings, even when covering it up, it still, lights up. It just looks so intense and just so crazy looking. Man, that head sculpt is so good. And let alone, just the detailing all around. The sculpt work is amazing. I really do love this, dry brushing that Hasbro has been doing. And when I paint my figure, I'm leaving that dry brushing there, because that is just so good. And I just love, the purple, translucent plastic. Some more of that dry brushing on the side right there. Some very nice sculpt work, especially on the forearms there. Man, this thing just looks so good. And as you can see right here, there's actually an Autobot logo, which is not a mistake, surprisingly. With the CGI model and stuff, there actually is an Autobot logo on there, which is pretty interesting. There's a bit of hollowness on the back of the arms and a little bit on the legs, but I'm not going to let that detract from how just awesome and amazing this figure actually is. And he's very seamless too, very streamlined. He just looks so perfect. Feels really good to hold too. He just feels very sturdy. Man, all the amazing sculpt work here. Some more of that dry brushing. They didn't skip out at all with this guy. But man, he just looks so good. Now, these parts here on the thighs are supposed to be silver. I don't know why they just left them gray and just put a smear of dry brush on it. It's a bit weird, but I will definitely fix that. But as you can see, man, they even, painted, these purple side bits. And these parts right here, which are actually purple plastic, they actually painted those in gunmetal, which is surprising. They put a lot of paint into this figure, which is pretty crazy, considering how nowadays it's hard to get any kind of paint. But they had this all painted up in some nice gunmetal gray color. The feet are sculpted very nice. This gun is insane. It's sculpted insanely nice. I'm really excited to paint this figure. And they have these like weird, like kind of bronzish, like almost brown coloring. Kind of wish they went with gold, but I guess they went with that just to kind of make it darker. I really do love how you can like see through his chest right there, which is pretty cool. And all the detailing there. I'm going to be picking out some of the detail in that when I paint it. Very, very nice back here. Painted up pretty nicely for the most part. That's going to be really exciting to paint. Man, I'm just in love with this figure. This thing just looks perfect. But now let's get into the accessories. So he does come with 2 accessories, technically 2, but they are 1. So we have the cannon right here, which is picked out very nicely in the gunmetal metallic gray type of paint. Makes it look really, really nice. I do love the sculpt work they got going on here for the barrel, and it does extend, so if you wanted to have a longer barrel, you can. But that's mainly for transformation. And man, I just wish they picked out some of the paint up at the top just a little bit more. But see, mine has a defect. Has some weird shiny spot going on. But yeah, I love the sculpt work all the way around there. And as you can see, there's that shiny spot and that little bit of gunmetal paint that's just kind of on there. But, you know, I kind of expect it from retail figures at this point. But yeah, I mean, it looks just amazing, and it's a pretty big cannon, to say the least. Like, it's pretty good. And for his last accessory, it is the hose to his cannon arm, or gun, cannon, whatever you want to call it. And it does look the same all the way around. It's got some pretty nice rib detailing, though, which is pretty cool. And it is very flexible as well, so you can get it to cooperate a lot more than the Dark of the Moon one. So you can see how flexible it is there. It's pretty floppy looking. And in order to attach it to Shockwave himself, you're going to look under here, and there's going to be that tab right there. And you're going to make sure the cannon is compressed. But here's what we're going to do. We're going to open this up as if we were going to transform him, or to flip his hand in. You can leave the hand out, but it's just better to have it flipped in. You're going to take that tab right there, and it's going to be put into that port like so. And that's just going to tab in right there. And then you're going to bring in the hose right here. And it doesn't matter which end you do, both ends work just as fine. And you're going to take it and plug it into that hole right there at the bottom of the cannon. So just squeeze that on in like so. Then you're going to take the other end, and it's going to plug into his back on that port, or you could use the other port, whichever one you want to use. And you just plug it in like so. And that's how he looks like with his cannon arm. And he looks really, really sick with this cannon. This thing is dope. So, going back to the figure here, let's take a look at the articulation. So, as for the head here, it is on a ball joint, but the way his head is shaped, he can't look up at all, like not even a little bit. He can swivel all the way around, though. And he does, oh, well, I guess he has no side to side, so it is just swiveling. As for the arms, there's no butterfly joint, but the arm can go up about that far. And back down about that far. The arm can spin all the way around, technically, but, you know, with the hose it can't. So I'll demonstrate on this arm that it can, in fact, spin all the way around. And he has no bicep swivel, which I know is a big problem for this figure. A Voyager class with no bicep swivel, I know, it's crazy, because the way they molded this shoulder pad piece looks like it would lift up, and it does lift up a little bit, but they added a tab section to stop it from lifting, which I think is a little bit weird. Don't know why. But he does have a forearm swivel right there, and a single hinged elbow right there. And it can go back about that far. And as far as having not a cannon arm on, the only added articulation right here, here I can show the elbow hinge right there a little bit better. But as for the added articulation, both hands will swivel, depending on if you have the cannon arm or not, because it is on a ball joint due to the transformation, so it can technically act as a wrist swivel. As for the waist, he has no ab crunch, but he does have a waist swivel, like so. And as for the legs, they can go up about that far, back all the way, and he can do the full splits as long as I get the cannon arm out of the way. Just move his arm back a little bit. He can do the full splits, like so. And as for the top half, he does have a thigh swivel, does have a knee swivel for some reason, and he does have a single hinge at the knee that goes 90 degrees. And as for the foot, can go up only a little bit, and it can go down quite a bit, mainly for transformation, and he does have ankle pivot. So that is pretty much it for his articulation. He's a pretty articulated guy, and I think he looks pretty cool. Now let's do a pose test. So I hope you enjoyed that little pose session, but now it's time to get on to the scaling of this figure. So let's take a look at him next to the Studio Series Optimus Prime custom that I did. I've already done a video on this Optimus Prime figure if you'd like to check it out. That is how he looks up next to Optimus Prime from Rise of the Beasts. And for Bumblbee movie comparisons, here he is next to the smallest Bumblbee movie Cybertron character, at least I think. Might have been Brawn. But here he is next to RC. And here he is next to the Bumblebee movie Ratchet. So that's how he looks up next to Ratchet there. Some of these Bumblebee movie figures were unfinished because I didn't get to finish them. But here he is next to Wheeljack, the only Wheeljack in this new rebooted universe. Not Pablo, because Pablo is not Wheeljack. At least not to me. That's Wheeljack to me. But that is how he looks next to Wheeljack. And here he is next to the Bumblebee movie Jeep Bumblebee, which I think is probably the best Bumblebee figure to come out of that Bumblebee movie kind of subline within Studio Series, because it looks the most accurate, and plus this Bumblebee doesn't have door wings on the back. He just has the wheels, so he looks a hell of a lot more accurate and is the right size in my opinion. So that's how he looks next to Bumblebee. And here is Shockwave next to Dropkick from the Bumblebee movie, the car mode Dropkick, because it is miles better than the helicopter dropkick, which I did have that helicopter dropkick, but I got rid of him. And here he is next to Shatter, the jet mode Shatter, because, well, just like how the car mode dropkick is better than the helicopter dropkick, the jet Shatter is better than the car Shatter, which is kind of funny, to be honest. But here he is next to Blitzwing, my custom Blitzwing there. So that's how he looks up next to Blitzwing, one of the other villains from a Bumblebee movie. And here he is next to, and for some other comparisons here, just to have the OG team, here he is next to my custom Starscream, which I did the painting video on that didn't really get a lot of attention, so that's it for the painting videos, I guess. So yeah, that's how he is next to my custom Starscream, which I'll be painting Shockwave up this weekend on a stream. And here he is next to my custom Soundwave, which I've yet to do a video on. So there he is next to Soundwave right there. And it's funny that Shockwave is like bigger than Soundwave. I figured they'd be about the same height. But I do have one more comparison here. Here he is next to the Studio Series Bumblebee movie concept Megatron, which just got released. And I think these two look really great together. I cannot wait to paint this Shockwave and make him look just as good as the other guys. But yeah, I think this scale works out perfectly fine. Megatron is taller as he should be. And dare I say it again, this Shockwave looks so good next to all the other Decepticons. Like the main heavy hitters at least. And I'm just so happy to finally have complete this team of the OG, what is it called with 4 groups? A quadruple? Yeah, let's just go with quadruple. But I kind of lied, so I have a couple other size comparisons to go through. So here he is next to the first version of this character we've gotten, at least as far as mainline type of stuff, which is the Core Class Shockwave, which this is a severe disappointment. Like, why did we get the Core Class figure first, but not the Voyager? It's just really, really weird. I don't know, but definitely you can see the Voyager's a hell of a lot better than the Core Class. This Core Class figure is just kind of meh. And, well, the Voyager class figure here compared to the Core Class is just, there's no comparison, like, at all. Not a single one. This Core Class figure is just kind of meh, which I am going to be selling him if anyone is interested. But as far as other comparisons here, we have the Studio Series Dark of the Moon Shockwave, which I am selling this figure to. If you are interested, just shoot me a comment down in the comments and we can work out a price. Just because I actually bought the Byway Shockwave. Because, well, this figure, while it is cool, and I really do love Dark of the Moon Shockwave a lot, the Byway one is just a little bit more accurate and a bit bigger. So that is how he looked next to the Dark of the Moon Shockwave. Now here's the Byway Studio Series Shockwave, which I did a way better paint job on. That other Shockwave is one of my older paint jobs, but this is my newer Byway Shockwave, all painted up, looking definitely a lot more accurate to the movie as far as color scheme goes and accuracy. But yeah, as you can see, this Byway Shockwave is just a little bit bigger than the normal one. At least I think so. I'm at the let me see if they're actually the same size or not. But the Byway Shockwave has a different head sculpt, so that was mainly what I was going for to try and get. And let me just see real quick. And yeah, the Byway Shockwave is definitely a lot bigger, at least by a little bit, but only where it matters. But that's not the main point of this review. So let's bring back in Shockwave. From Bumblbee movie, as you can see, they scale pretty okay with each other. But that was it for the Byway comparison. And I do have, I believe, one more comparison here. So here he is next to the only other version of this Shockwave that we got in some sort of a toy form. Now this is the Yellow Park model kit. This was Yellow Park before they started to get kind of a little bit babyish with their model kit system. Now this Shockwave model kit ran me about like $200 and was not exactly the easiest thing to put together. It was honestly like pretty difficult to put together and it hurt my fingers a lot. But as you can see, this is how they scale to each other. So this Shockwave is just gigantic, like huge. But he does look pretty cool, and this is a model kit that I do absolutely recommend if you want to spend the money. And I kind of lied. There is actually one more. So, I'm sorry. I really love Shockwave, so I have a lot. But here's the Siege Shockwave, which I'm also selling too, just to kind of weed it out, because there is a other Shockwave figure that is going to take his place. So I'm getting rid of that one too. If anyone's interested, he is complete with all accessories. But as you can see, both of them have that G1 style to them. They both share similar characteristics of each other, but they do look pretty cool next to each other. So that's about it for comparisons. So let's get back to the... where'd he go? What? I'm not reviewing you. There he is. So let's do the transformation now. So first what we're going to do here is we're going to unplug the cannon arm here. So I'm going to unplug the hose from the back right there. And we're just going to let that kind of dangle down. We're going to take the cannon right here, and we're going to put that off to the side for right now. And to start off with, if it isn't already, the hand right here, we're going to open up his forearm, fold the hand on in, and we're going to close it up like so till you hear a snap. Then we're going to do is make sure the forearm is rotated so the treads are facing forward like so. And then you're just going to move the elbow back like so. So that way it tabs into that tab right there. And that will just lock in. And then do the same. Make sure that one locks in. And the next step will be to tab these arms in to those ports right there. So just lift the arm up and tab it into that section right there, if my camera will focus. And there we go, yeah. Just tab it into that section right there. So just lift the arm up and tab it into his back. Same thing with the other side. Lift it up, tab it in. And the next step, so you should have it looking like this. And so for the next step, what we're going to do is untab the chest section like so. We're just going to bring it all the way out. And for the head, what we're going to do is just lift it down as far as it can go, like so. And then this whole top section right here is going to untab, and you're just going to just fold it over, or down, technically, like so. So it's looking like that. And then as for the legs right here, going to come to these back sections, going to pull them out, spin them around, and lock them back in, so that way the treads are facing on the outside. And you're going to do the same for this side as well. Pull them out, spin them around, lock back in, and then you're going to flip the feet down all the way, like so. And for the legs, we're just going to move that chest out of the way. We're going to basically give them the full splits, and there's this extra joint on the inside of the thigh. And you're going to hinge that down like so. Same thing for the other side. Hinge it out like so. And then what we're going to do is we're going to fold down the chest section. And these little tab areas, we're going to tab into what were the hips. So they're just going to tab on in. Just kind of like a resting tab kind of thing. So, tab it in like so, if it wants to work with me. There we go, I believe it's tabbed in. Yeah, it should be. I'm going to do the same thing for the other side. Just line it up, tab it in, make sure it's secure. It's not going to be like a stiff tab in, it's just going to kind of sit in there. But next, you're going to take the port on the chest there and put it into the leg. So just peg that on in. I know that back section came undone. I'll fix that in a second. Just make sure things are all straightened out. Same thing with this side. Push that peg, tab it on in like so, and just lock it in. So you have something along the lines of that. And now we're going to do is fix that back side up if it came untabbed. And I'm going to take the bottom flap here of the chest, and I'm going to move it on in, so that way it just tabs in right there. And it should tab in like so. And then what we're going to do is angle the camera down. We're going to bring back the cannon. Now there's going to be this kind of peg that you're just going to flip down like so. And then as for the attachment, you're just going to peg it on in using that hole, and it will just peg on in like so. And once that is pegged in, you can take the hose and basically just going to port it back into the section that it was ported in robot mode. So just peg that on in like so, and there you go. It's a pretty simple transformation, but it works pretty and surprisingly effective for a Cybertronian mode. And I think this thing looks really good. It does roll on all four wheels. So let's take a look at the vehicle mode here. So as you can see, there's some very nice sculpt work going on. I mean, it's pretty much just the same sculpt work as it was for the vehicle mode. Oh, I mean the robot mode. Sorry. But I did actually forget to mention the transformation, that this cannon bit does have to be extended out. So I'm just going to extend that out there. So here now is the full vehicle mode with the gun barrel extended out. And yeah, I mean, this vehicle mode doesn't look too bad. I mean, you know, they did what they could to give it a vehicle mode. I do love the front here, as the front part of the tank, very, very reminiscent to a certain iteration of Shockwave. But nonetheless, I mean, it's not too bad of a figure. I really do like the transformation. It's a lot more nicer than the core class figure. Rolls on all four wheels like so, and the gun barrel can spin all the way around. Technically, without the hose it can, but since it has the hose on it, it's not going to range too much, but it can lift up a little bit and you can spin it around still. So put it back down, and let's take the hose off for a second just to see the rotation here on the turret, so you can get it all the way around if you don't pop it off. So it can go absolutely all the way around there. Let's just plug that hose back in. And yeah, it's a decent vehicle mode. Now this thing isn't too bad. It's definitely the best they could have done. But I will admit, it probably was not easy for the designers to take something that did not transform in the movie and give it a vehicle mode. But it does look pretty clean in my opinion. So I'm pretty happy with this Shockwave. All things considered, it is a great toy. Speaking of great toys, let's take a look at some comparisons in vehicle mode. So here he is next to the core class version. This rinky-dink core class Shockwave that, to be honest, is not good at all. I do not like how this little thing transforms. Even though it's the same vehicle mode and kind of the same set of transformations, it's just not as cool or grand or good as the Voyager one is. And it does have its fair share of minute problems. But still, it's not too bad. But as I probably have said, I'm going to be selling it and getting rid of it. It just has no use for me anymore now that I got this one. So here's what they look like on the side of each other. And taking that core class figure out of the way, here he is next to the Studio Series Bumblbee movie RC. So that's how they look next to each other. RC is in a sort of like light cycle-esque type of bike mode. But that is how they look next to each other. I think they look pretty cool. Here he is next to Ratchet. So that's how he looks next to Ratchet right there. Looking pretty cool. Not too bad. And here he is next to Wheeljack the only Wheeljack. And to point out, he is my favorite one. But here he is on the side of Shockwave. This Wheeljack figure is probably like my favorite Bumblbee movie figure. It just looks so cool. But let's bring in some Decepticons. So here he is next to Soundwave, this laughable vehicle mode of Soundwave. I mean, look, it's just him just laying down. I mean, Shockwave is just laying down too, but this Soundwave one is just abysmal. It's just like nothing. It's just a slab. But this is what he looks next to Soundwave in his vehicle mode. Not too bad. And to bring in another tank comparison, here he is next to the Studio Series concept art Megatron that has been recently released. So you can see how they look together there. And they look pretty damn good. Although I do prefer the tank mode for Shockwave. Because Megatron's is a little bit kind of, like you could tell they just tried to makeshift something. But with the Shockwave one, you can at least see that there was some type of care put into it. But there is one more comparison I'd like to make, and that is next to another Cybertronian tank Shockwave, and that is the Studio Series Dark of the Moon Shockwave. Now, you can see that both of these utilize the whole tank idea. So, that is pretty much how he looks next to the Dark of the Moon Shockwave. And here he is next to both Megatron, and this is just something I want to point out. I'll even bring in Soundwave here for this, because he basically is a part of this. So, these three characters, all three of them go through tons and tons and tons of different modes throughout the years. Soundwave is the more consistent one, or at least he's been given a lot more modes. Megatron gets the most modes, and Shockwave, usually they just keep making him a tank. Now, here's like a problem I have. Soundwave, I don't know why they made him this slab when they could have probably tried to make him some sort of a sound vehicle or of some sorts. Just something a bit more interesting. Or maybe just make him the cassette. Like, I don't know why they don't make Soundwave a boombox anymore. I think it's a little bit weird. But with Shockwave, he's always a tank. And it's just like, it's always the same kind of tank too. With the same transformations and the same stuff. And see, I don't understand why Shockwave can't be a gun. I know why Megatron can't be a gun, because Megatron is a little too realistic to be a gun in certain circumstances. But with Shockwave, it doesn't make any sense at all, because Shockwave was never a real gun. He was just like a laser gun, while Megatron was actually a gun. And I know this is a debate that gets talked about quite a bit, why Megatron can't be a gun nowadays, and this and that. I wish Megatron could be a gun, but at the same time, it's like, why does Megatron's issues have to make another character suffer? And this particular Shockwave Bumblbee figure is modeled after the Prime Universe Shockwave. So, I mean, it's not, like, too bad in my opinion. But, like, there's been other Shockwave figures, like the Cyberverse one, that is like a spider tank, and it just looks silly. And then was the Siege one, which was a spaceship. But, I mean, it wasn't too bad, at least. But, I don't know. I feel like Shockwave still has the right over Megatron to be a gun, just because of the simple fact that Shockwave was never a real gun, or modeled after a real gun. But, again, that's just my opinion. To be fair, they still do look cool together. So, leaving off with some final thoughts, I think this figure is all around perfect. It's been a long time coming since we needed to get a Voyager Shockwave, and surprisingly, they're still pumping out figures from that Bumblbee movie. Like, there's still a lot of characters that they just continue to do, and I think that's pretty great. Hell, maybe we could get a Soundwave repaint into what was it, Sound Blaster. That'd be pretty cool. But yeah, I mean, this figure's great. It poses well. The sculpt is nice. I love the paintwork and everything. Like, it looks really, really, really good. I love the light piping. The placement of the paint is perfect. The presence it has is perfect. It scales very well with Megatron, Starscream, and Soundwave. It's just the perfect, like, Shockwave figure, and, you know, if you don't have this, get it. And if you don't intend on getting it, I think you should rethink your decisions on not getting it, because this thing is, like, just a beast of a figure. And it's just so cool. And stay tuned, because I actually, after making this video, I found out 2 other modes that I can actually put them into. But, and also catch my, paintwork stream this weekend on this figure. And make sure to like, subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next one.